All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you all very much for coming out. We are here today to talk about, well, it's our bi-weekly press briefing, of course, but I'm here with our Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, who I think has done an absolutely extraordinary job leading our economic development efforts, our planning and economic development efforts. I've said to anybody that will listen, Victor, that, you know, we didn't know each other before February of 2011, and that's my loss. I feel like I've known you forever, and it's just wonderful to be able to work with you every day and to be able to, vest you with the authority and the responsibility to help us move forward, what's going on in the District of Columbia around economic development. Today, we're here to talk about the 5-year economic development strategy that we launched, not precisely on this spot, but almost a year ago. It was November, I think, of 2012 when we launched it, right, Rich? And we were across the street in the Kennedy Recreation Center because we had not seen the level of progress that we've already seen with this. In fact, I well recall, I won't go into the details of it, when we got here, the market at O Street was still struggling to get off the ground, despite the best efforts of Roadside and those working with Roadside. So it just seemed fitting to come back here today to talk about where we are after 1 year of effort on the 5-year plan. Again, specifically, it was launched on November 14th, 2012, and I think we've made an enormous amount of progress just since we've launched it a year ago. We were here to celebrate, too, the unveiling of the construction of Giant, which is now finished. We were just here, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago to be able to celebrate the opening of the Giant. And what a wonderful celebration that was. And again, Richard, I want to thank you all and Roadside and so many others for being able to get us to where we are today as a part of revitalization of this area of the city. The Giant is a 72,000 square foot store. It is enormous, and it really is a wonderful addition to this area of the city. It is probably a symbol of the transformation that's taking place, and we think the plan, the 5-year plan, is a symbol of that as well. In any event, we have tried to deliver on the promises that we've made. We will continue to do that. About a year ago, we talked about establishing a long-term, coordinated economic development strategy, not just a bunch of initiatives that would be in some ways connected, in some ways disconnected, but a strategy that would move the city forward, especially recognizing the challenges that we face here in the city around things like sequestration, which certainly will not go away. Sequestration is a strategy, if you will, to reduce the size and scope and expenditure levels of the federal government, $1.2 trillion, I think it is, over a period of 10 years. And we've already started to see the effects of that. Recognizing, too, that as the District of Columbia, the impact of that would fall disproportionately on us because we are right in the backyard, if you will, of the federal government, and recognizing we could either sit here and wring our hands or we could start to redefine, or work to redefine the District of Columbia. So that's what this statement was about, and that's what we've been working to try to implement. If we can go to the next slide. There were people who we reached out to try to assist us with this. Our universities are enormously talented in this city, a great resource pool for the city, And we reached out to 4 universities, the American University, which made available to us Dean Michael Ginsberg, who is the dean of the business school there. He graduated, has a PhD from MIT, and is the former dean of Yeshiva University and Delaware University. George Washington University, where Doug Guthrie, who's now the former dean, because he has now become a full-time professor, the president now made him available to us, and he has continued to work with us. He's now working on our creative economy strategy, which we launched officially about 2 to 3 weeks ago. He has a PhD from Berkeley and formerly taught as a professor at the New York University as well as Harvard University. Dean Dave Thomas, who has a PhD from Yale and is a former professor at Harvard. He is the dean of the business school at Georgetown University. And then fourthly, Dean Barron Harvey, who has a PhD from Nebraska. He is the dean of the business school at Howard University and has 2 decades of service to Howard University. We decided to embrace 7 core sectors that we believe are vital to the city's economy, some of which, probably all of which, in one way or the other, are known to people in the city. Obviously, the federal government, even though the federal government's size and scope and share of our economy likely will shrink over time, it continues to be a major force in generating resources for the District of Columbia. Higher education and health care, which are 2 of the, I won't say sleeping giants, but they are major parts of the economy here in the District of Columbia. Professional services, which includes lots of jobs in the District of Columbia. It is actually the 3rd largest employment sector in the city. Hospitality, which we are working to grow as much as we possibly can. That's one of the reasons why we are building a new hotel across from the convention center. The Marriott Marquis and other hotels now are getting underway in the city, some of which we'll talk about, some of which we won't. Technology, which is, has had a very, I won't say infinitesimally small presence here in the city, but a very small presence. And we are making major investments in working with folks here in the city to try to grow that as an employment sector and part of our economy. 1776, which we'll talk a little bit more about shortly, is a good example of that. And retail. We know that we've lost somewhere around $1 billion in retail spending from people in the city who are going out to shop in Maryland or Virginia. I often use Costco as an example. Costco has been open just about 1 year. It was, I think, November 29th of last year when it opened. It has been operational for that 1 year. And I do very systematic research, like riding through the parking lot to see what the tags are on the cars there. And oftentimes what you find, roughly speaking, is that about half the tags are from the District of Columbia, which is exactly what we wanted, and that is to keep people here. But we're also attracting people from Maryland and Virginia. You see a lot of tags from Maryland and Virginia parked in that parking lot, on cars, of course, that now are suggesting that people are coming into the city. And then real estate and construction, which are great opportunities to be able to bring jobs to lower skilled workers in the District of Columbia. And those jobs, in one way or the other, will always be available. That's why when you talk about one city and being a diverse city, it's important to be able to make sure that we make those jobs available to people who live in the city. Otherwise, we'll have an imported workforce, and that is not what we're seeking to do. In any event, when you total up, you can go back one. Okay. When you total up all of those jobs, they total 647,000, almost 648,000 jobs, which represent 88% of the jobs here in the District of Columbia, and then there are others, of course, that we fill in along the way. And by the way, for those of you who remember, We, as a part of this process, conducted almost 200 interviews with people to be able to ascertain what folks thought about being able to move this city forward. All right. And what you have is the next slide. And you see a copy of our economic development strategy. And if you haven't gotten a copy of this and you don't know about it, I have to ask you, where have you been for the last year? This is a document that really frames exactly where it is that we're trying to go. If you go back to the One City Action Plan, which we produced quite some time ago now, it has essentially 3 goals. And 2 of those goals are to grow and diversify the district's economy, and then secondly, to educate and prepare the workforce for a new economy. The first goal, growing and diversifying D.C.'s economy, means, again, trying to grow existing sectors, attracting new and innovative sectors here in the city, and then promoting opportunities in our neighborhoods. Educating and preparing our workforce, I think we saw some evidence of those efforts, which we know are long-term and hopefully will be fully institutionalized into the city's culture over a period of time. We saw the test scores that came from the NAEP tests. We got those just about, I don't know, I think it was November 7th when we released those, so just less than a month ago. And the District of Columbia showed the largest amount, if you will, for want of a better way of putting it, the largest amount of growth of any state in the District of Columbia. And we ask you not to forget that. It was really visionary of those folks to compare us to a state, and being compared in a very positive sense in this instance. When you look at the 51 states that were up there, the highest state was on the left-hand side of that graphic, and it was the District of Columbia that had shown the greatest growth over the last couple of years in how we educate our kids. And if we continue to move in that direction, the jobs that we're talking about will go to the young people who live in this city and the young people who have been educated in this city, because that's what we will have prepared them for. There are 6 visions that are contained in the plan. We want to be the most business-friendly economy in the nation, and we'll talk a little bit more about these. We want to be the largest technology center on the East Coast, and I hope you all have been to St. Elizabeth's on the east side to see what is happening there. The Gateway building is now finished. We had a press briefing there about 6 weeks ago to be able to let people know where we're going with that. We now have a commitment from Citadel, a French lighting firm. And some of you saw some of the comments by the French. I don't know if they knew that the Citadel was going to locate its headquarters, its North American headquarters, on the St. Elizabeth's campus when they were making comments about Anacostia, since this is right adjacent to Anacostia. Smart BIM, which is a building information management technology firm. And then thirdly, and we now have the news, some of you will have heard that probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that is Microsoft is locating its first innovation center in the U.S. outside of Redmond, Washington, will be located on the campus, the east side campus of St. Elizabeth's. And that was great news for us to be able to hear that for those who were at the Economic Partnership Luncheon. Third vision is becoming the nation's destination of choice. A lot of work has been done with that. Ending retail leakage, which I just talked about already. Being the best-in-class global medical center. And being the top North American destination for foreign investors, businesses, and tourists. And we're starting to see some real return on that. The 2 overarching outcomes are right there at the bottom of this slide. Creating 100,000 new jobs and $1 billion in new tax revenue, and we are going to report today on where we are after 1 year of that being part of our effort. How many jobs have been created, and where are we with the generation of tax dollars? There are lots of folks who have partnered with us to be able to make this happen. If you can take a look at that slide, it is busy, but I'll try to be as organized as I can. I've talked about some of the university leadership that has joined with us. George Washington University, since we started this, has opened a campus in Suzhou in China. We went there when we took the trip to China in June of 2012. The consortium of universities which has worked with us to help generate an academic partner for us at the St. Elizabeth's campus. I guess we're getting close on that, aren't we, Victor? Yeah, we're getting close on that. And that was one of the things that we thought was going to be why we were delayed in getting an answer from Microsoft, but they decided not to wait any longer, that they wanted to be there and they wanted to make it known that they wanted to be on the east end of the District of Columbia. Howard University, which has been working to expand programming in partnership with a China-based university. Georgetown and American University have been supporters from the virtual outset of this, and I talked about the work that their business school deans have done. Destination DC and Events DC, which work in concert with one another to be able to move this city forward. Destination DC, of course, attracting people here under the leadership of Elliot Ferguson, and Events DC doing a number of things, most particularly of which is the hosting of conventions at our world-class convention center in downtown. The Federal City Council, under the leadership of former Mayor Anthony Williams, who I've thoroughly enjoyed working with during my time. I think we all know what a great job Mayor Williams did as the mayor of the city for 8 years. And he has continued his commitment to the city, working now with the Federal City Council. And they've been working on an infrastructure investment fund to see if that is something that would add benefit to the District of Columbia. The Board of Trade, which hosted an entire group of folks we had from the Z Park, which is a technology. Park is the wrong term. I don't know what the right term is, but it's not a park, because when you think of a park, I think you think of something that is more fathomable than is Z Park. Z Park has, I think, 1.1 million employees and about 22,000 technology firms. And we expect them to start to make decisions soon to bring some of those firms not only to the United States, but here to the District of Columbia. In fact, we had a delegation, right, Victor, of about 30 people who came representing various aspects of Z-Park to help us continue to build a robust technology presence here in the city. The Chamber of Commerce, which has been a great partner in all of this. And, you know, I'll say again, I really hate to see Barbara Lang leave. She has made an enormous contribution to this city. And knowing Barbara, she will be doing something that will continue to contribute to the District of Columbia. And she and the Chamber hosted the Z-Park folks at their offices and helped acquaint them with what the small business environment is in the District of Columbia, so that as these technology firms come, they will recognize that we have a CBE, a DSLBD, a Department of Small Local Business Development that can help connect them with small businesses here in the District of Columbia that will continue to facilitate jobs here in the city. Union Kitchen. This was the district's first culinary incubator. And I think we have a slide later that's going to speak to how many jobs have been created. I know there was skepticism a little over less than a year ago about whether jobs would be created as a result of this. Let me tell you, jobs have been created, and we'll talk about the numbers. I had a gentleman to walk up to me last night at a Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington event, and he handed me his card, and he said, I just want you to know that I'm opening an incubator, an accelerator, if you will, for culinary opportunities in the District of Columbia in Edgewood. And he said, I'm investing in it, and I really want to work with the city to make more opportunities available. So, Victor, please remind me to give you that gentleman, Mr. Goldberg's card, because it was truly uplifting to see that this has now served as a catalyst for people being able to help us expand the economy here in the city. The Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership, they launched Accelerate D.C., which is a mentorship program for folks here in the District of Columbia. They have been involved with lots of entrepreneurs here in the city, and frankly have been involved with us now for several years in facilitating the ICSC work that we do to try to bring retailers to the District of Columbia. And they also helped facilitate our participation for the first time, I think, in history in South by Southwest, which is a technology conference in Austin, Texas, which I went to. In fact, I think I was the only mayor who was there who was working to try to sell this city to emerging technology professionals and businesses in the District of Columbia. The D.C. BIA, which has established a couple leadership groups, our own DSLBD, which now has increased its staff. We've increased the staff there by 50%, which gives them a greater capacity to do a number of things around monitoring, around procurement, around establishing and nurturing a hub zone, around 8A certification, which is the Small Business Administration's certification program that has been around for ages, and expanding small businesses to China through the Export DC program. Our Metropolitan Police Department, you're going like, what does the Metropolitan Police Department have to do with business development? Well, it has a lot to do with helping people feel like they are, in fact, in a safe city, and helping them to work. They're working directly with the DCBIA to mitigate any crime issues, especially at development sites like this has been here, because that's the last thing you want to have happen while something is being built, that it becomes a hub for crime. Department of Employment Services, which has worked with the Union Kitchen to provide job training. And by the way, we now are approaching under the One City, One Hire program. When we started this program, we said we were going to get 10,000 people back to work. And people looked at me and looked at others and said, right, okay, let us know when it happens. Well, we are now right at the threshold of 8,000 people having gotten jobs, and we are at something like 980, 985 employers who have participated in the One City, One Hire program, and we know this is going to continue to be an important part of how we get people to work. The D.C. China Center, which we opened now just a little over a year ago. Rich, you were there with us to do that. We had a number of people who signed on to the EB-5 program in a formal way while we were there. I know a lot of work had preceded that, and I'll talk a little bit more about EB-5 in a second. They are helping to pitch the technology efforts here in the city. Ning Xiao is the gentleman who we have running it. He is quite an expert, highly respected, and gives us a 24/7 presence now for the first time in history in China to help pitch the economy here in the District of Columbia. GSA, which has established leadership roles, leadership groups with the DCBIA and with us, of course, and then the Workforce Investment Council. Mike Harold, who is the CEO of PNC Bank, has chaired that and really has frankly brought it from nowhere. It did not exist when we started. It was dormant. It was absolutely non-functional, and we've now gotten a working Workforce Investment Council, which is focusing on a workforce intermediary in hospitality, excuse me, and in construction jobs here in the city. Now, the next slide shows you where we are. We have 52 initiatives as a part of this. 20 of them are now complete, which is pretty astounding, we think, anyway, to have 20 or 52 complete in the first year. 20% of the plan, but somewhere around 60% of the initiatives, 40%, I should say, of the initiatives already are complete. There are 13 that have been launched, and to use a baseball metaphor, we have 19 that are on deck with the bat in their hand waiting to step up and start to work. Again, 20 of the 52 initiatives are complete, and they are distributed really across all 6 of the visions. The next slide shows you And I won't go through in great detail with this because some of the things I've mentioned, but it shows you the vision on the left-hand side. There's 6 visions. It has a number of strategic initiatives that are associated with those visions. And the third one is, because if you don't have any accountability, then you don't know what you're going to get done. It becomes a luck of the draw. And that's who the implementation partners are that have taken on responsibility for these initiatives. So, again, I've already talked about the 6 visions, but you can see things like establishing a regular mechanism that sparks communication between the federal government and the private sector, real estate leaders, for example, regarding office space that's being vacated. And I think we have the lowest vacancy rate in the nation. But we also know that while there are more firms wanting to come to the District of Columbia, people are more efficiently using space. And some of the law firms, for example, are not using as much space as they did in yesteryear because they are finding more efficient ways to use space themselves. In terms of our technology work, leveraging accelerators and informal networks to help grow angel investor commitments. Those angel investors basically are people who are willing to invest, believe that technology can and will grow in the District of Columbia, and are willing to put money into invest money into those firms, which, by the way, we have done ourselves. We were one of the first, if not the first, investors in 1776, investing $200,000 in the space there. And you'll see on a later slide, but we have come from having 1776 did not exist at this time last year. Today it not only exists, but we have 175 startups that are located in 1776. We know that some of them will not succeed, but imagine if just 10 or 20 or 25 of them succeed, what they are going to do to change the landscape in the District of Columbia and what they're going to do to change outcomes for employment opportunities as we prepare our own children for these opportunities. And I hope you all will connect the dots. You think about the east end of this city. Think about Ballou High School that is now being built that will be ready for the next school year. It will have a STEM concentration, science, technology, engineering, and math concentration. Those young people will be able to connect with what we're doing on the St. Elizabeth's campus for internships and training and opportunities, and they will be able to be eventually a workforce that we can look towards, some right out of high school, others, frankly, after, a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree, to be able to obtain jobs that are being grown right here in the District of Columbia. That's the essence of what we're trying to do. And frankly, along the way, we're trying to change the image of what happens on the east end of this city and the perception of the young people themselves who live there, who believe, many of them, that there are only 6 wards in the District of Columbia and not 8 wards, some of whom, frankly, it's hard to believe, have never even been to downtown Washington, D.C. And that is a part of what we're changing, because it will change the economic outlook, it will change the economic outcome, and it will change the human outlook of people, the 140,000 people who live on the east end of the District of Columbia. Others, like getting a commitment from major employers to work with us on the workforce intermediary, which I mentioned, bringing retailers to the city. I don't know where we are with the $1 billion, but I know it's got to be reduced. I'm looking forward to getting the figures from Costco to see where we are after 1 year of Costco operating. How many of you all have been to Costco? I don't work for Costco, okay? I just happen to be talking about it because it's a prime example. But if you haven't been there, you should go there. It is an outing. And I have this propensity. I love to watch large quantities of things. And Costco sells large quantities of food. And I'll go in there and buy large quantities of food and then go home like, what did I buy all this stuff for? What am I going to do with this? They also sell large quantities of liquor for those of you who may drink, and it's pretty economical. And now the gas station, I think they have the cheapest gas in the District of Columbia, maybe in the area, less than $3 a gallon. How they do that, I don't know, but it is a bargain. And then in terms of our commitment to medical center, we are continuing to work with Macmillan. We've got some plans for that. That will come in the next, years 2 through 5. And then supporting additional business opportunities from the Chinese market. The next slide actually shows us at South by Southwest. We want to be the most business-friendly city, and that's why I and Victor and David Zipper. Where's David? David's here today, isn't he? Where are you, David? Oh, okay. David has, you know, this happens to you. When you have very talented people who do very well, they become targets of being recruited by, you know, the folks who you are working with, and that's what happened to David. And I think the world of David. I think he did a great job with us, and he will be working with us now as a part of our technology growth and development in the city. And just an outstanding young man who really has made an enormous contribution to this city, and I know will continue to do so. David, thank you very much for what you've done for our technology growth and development here in the city. And so we were there in March, and we spent a good bit of time working with folks around technology opportunities here in the city. It was the first district presence that we've had at South by Southwest. I was there to try to help market the city along with Victor and others, and we actually conducted a dinner, and I hope we will do that again in March when we go back to South by Southwest again, of 30 CEOs, technology CEOs in the city, and maybe we'll get as many as 60 this time to help them understand how the city can facilitate their growth and development here. I mentioned 1776 a second ago, and in April 2013, what is that, about, I don't know, 9 months, 8 months, 8 months ago, 9 months? Well, you can figure it out. Do the math yourself. Between April and early December of 2013. We've already had created there, and the two people you see are the founders. You see Donna Harris and Evan Burfield, who are the founders. And I'm actually there probably twice a month. You ever want to have an uplifting experience, an energizing experience, go to 1776. And for those of you who work at the Washington Post, it's right across from the Washington Post building, so you don't have to go far to have that experience. Again, 175 tech startups are there. 64 international startups will be attracted to the Challenge Cup. This will be the first year we are conducting the Challenge Cup, which will bring startups from, I don't know, 8, 16, however many, 16 different nations to be a part of a competition next spring. And DC Technology is being marketed now to 16 global cities. Those two photos are both of 1776. They started out with one floor and options on 3 other floors. Is that right, Victor? 3 other floors? And they've already filled up the top floor, and they're already working. I think they've got people moving into the other 3 floors now. I suspect that by the end of the first year, which would be April, they may be out of space, which would be a wonderful, again, advancement for the city that will attract young entrepreneurs. It will attract young professionals to the District of Columbia who will have young families, who will be involved in our schools, and will continue to grow and develop education here in the District of Columbia. The next slide is an example of what's happened with our culinary program. When we had that press briefing about that a number of months ago, there was enormous skepticism about this, whether there would be any jobs. Somebody was drawing a conclusion that, you know, how can you support something that will create 4 or 5 jobs? Well, it has to start somewhere. So I'm really proud to say today that what started now just about a year ago, in December of 2012, has already created over 300 jobs here in the District of Columbia. And while I don't have the precise numbers, most of those people live in the District of Columbia, have created job opportunities for here in the city, and now creating a whole nother sector of economic development and employment here in the city. We have 55 businesses operating at Union Kitchen, when last year, I think when we started, we might have had 3 or 4. So now we have 55, with another one, as I indicated, on its way towards opening. We've had people who've gotten jobs through our Project Empowerment program now working in Union Kitchen. For those of you, Project Empowerment really provides training and jobs for people who may be challenged in a variety of ways. May be challenged because they run afoul of situations in a host of different ways. And we now have 19 brick-and-mortar culinary businesses that are operating in the Union Kitchen. Yet another area, another example, is Hyatt Place at 400 East Street, Southwest. For those of you not familiar with that, it will be a new hotel that will have a fire station located underneath of it, which is pretty unique. I'm sure it will be sound conditioned enough to be able to ensure that people won't be awakened in the middle of the night. But what a unique, this will be, we've never had anything like this before in the city, to put a fire station under yet another building. So that will be available. The Hyatt Place also is a good example of how we're generating foreign investment. The EB-5 program, simply put, is a program where for those who are willing to invest $500,000, at least $500,000, and can guarantee there will be at least 10 jobs that will be created, you can get a visa to the USA. For this alone, $65 million being generated for Hyatt Place. And I think, Rich, are we 50 or $60 million for the market?
We've got a new number.
New number.
66 so far, invested in another 31 we're about to close.
So almost $100 million of foreign investment. Keep it coming.
We've already given back portion of it, and already generated visas for those early investments.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish, and that is to bring new revenue to the table that otherwise wouldn't be available for us. And by the way, just so you know, since we started, we have generated $912 million of foreign investment, a huge chunk of which is in City Center, which is now, we're going to have the opening of 10th Street shortly. I think you all know the grid is going to be reconnected in that area. I Street will be reopening, and 10th Street will be reconnected. It used to stop at where the convention center was and not pick up until you got to well on the other side of the convention center, the old convention center. That now has been changed. 10th Street is reopening, which will reconnect that part of the grid in the city, and is a great example of how we now at almost $1 billion of foreign investment since we came into office in January 2011. We also have been accepted as a member of the World Tourism Cities Federation, which is a huge tourism hospitality group. We have somebody who's been appointed the Deputy Secretary General of WTCF. I don't know what the Deputy Secretary General does, but it sounds like a pretty lofty term, pretty lofty title to me. So it sounds good. And just look at the numbers. Passenger travel between D.C. and Beijing alone increased by 21% between the first quarter of 2012 and the first quarter of 2013. And we are projecting an almost 200% increase in visitation from people from China coming to the District of Columbia. We have a major project that I cannot talk about yet that we're working on that may come to fruition as soon as 2 to 3 weeks from now. We will see. And if that does happen, it is going to open doors that have never been opened before from China to the District of Columbia. So stay tuned on that one. I'm going to ask Victor if he would come up now and talk a little bit about some of the numbers that help you to see where it is that we are.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, wanted to talk about the total number of jobs that have been created so far in the last 12 months. We're at 17,750. This includes not just the projects that we've broken ground on, but also the ones that are under construction and we know will be completed. The pipeline that we have ahead of us that we currently know about, we're seeing about 82,000 jobs projected out of that, which gives us roughly the 100,000 within the 5-year period. On the construction side, breaking down the 1 year, almost 7,000 construction jobs, about 10,000 permanent jobs. And then the breakdown on the 5-year, 37,000 construction, 45,000 permanent jobs. On the revenue side, we're a little bit behind. You know, we're gonna have to push a little harder on this. You know, the property values aren't appreciating as fast as we would like, but because, you know, that generates revenue. But this includes the cumulative impact of revenues from sales, from hotels, from any hospitality revenue that we may experience, from our restaurant revenue. In addition to that, of course, obviously the property taxes and income taxes of the individuals that move into the city. And we still are running at a pace of about 1,100 new residents per month. Before I go any further, I do want to mention a couple of things and thank some people who really helped us really bring this together. Sandy Wilkes and the developers roundtable came together and they contributed $100,000 to help us fund this effort. And to be honest with you, we would not have been able to finish it. We had $300,000, and that's, the mayor said, we have $300,000, Victor. That's what we have. We don't have $305,000. We don't have $302,000. We have $300,000. And they stepped up to the plate. And I really want to recognize Sandy and his group for contributing $100,000. You know, it's one thing for the private sector to talk about public-private partnerships. It's another thing for them to step up to the table and stroke a check for it, and that really makes a big difference. You know, particularly in our kind of work. The universities, the mayor talked about the tremendous contribution they've made. He's talked about, Greg Odell and Elliott and the tremendous contribution they've made. But I also want to mention DCRA and their effort in smoothing and streamlining our regulatory process. Nick Majette, I saw him earlier. I don't know if he's in here. Nick, would you raise your hand? Nick is back over here, slim and trim, losing weight, and slimming down that regulatory process, and it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to all of us. And also I want to thank Jeff Miller and the DMPED team for their tremendous work. Jeff Miller and his new deputies, Namita Shaw and Matt Troy, have done a great job. But we also have a lot of the DMPED team members. Would you please raise your hand so you can be recognized? I see Jason and I see Jeff back there, Martine. But really, they really make the wheels go in the organization. And I have a new chief of staff who probably has added 50 years to his life in the last 5 months, Rich Nichols. I want to thank him for not leaving me yet. But it's not easy in DMPED. You guys got to know that. But we really have had a really great run in the last few years, and a lot of that has been really due to the interagency cooperation that we've had at levels never seen before. Harriet Tregroning and her team, and whenever we need anybody outside of the cluster, I can always rely on Alan Liu to provide some motivation. Motivation, right, Alan? That's motivation. Motivation from Alan can be very uncomfortable for those of you who do not know Alan Liu. But really, I just wanted to recognize those folks because they've done such a great job in helping us. And there's 3 other people I'd like to close with. Ted Leonsis, Michael Chasen, Steve Case, and also Mike Ein. Yeah. He has just done, Mark Ein. They have been such tremendous supporters of us, particularly in our effort in South by Southwest. When D.C. first said they were going to go, we got a lot of rumbles, in the tech community. Who are you? What have you guys done in tech? They really brought legitimacy to the table and a power to the table that we can't bring from the government. And honestly, I think that those 26 other CEOs showed up just because these 4 guys were there, lending credibility to the District of Columbia. And I want to thank you so much for not only that support, but also for growing your business in the district. And you have really been a tremendous steward, and we really appreciate that. And with that, I will turn it back over to the mayor.
All right. Thank you very much, Victor. Just a couple more slides. The initiatives that we've talked about, many of which are completed, and just to share with you some of the others, that we are working on, making sure that all relevant job openings for our universities and hospitals are a part of the DOES website, providing meeting space and mentorship opportunities for our local businesses as they try to get themselves solidly grounded, simplifying the application process for hosting special events in D.C. That seems like it's something that should have been routinized, but it really wasn't. And is Paul Quanter here? Okay. In any event, Paul has done a great job of helping to lead that effort. And if you now look at, which I was looking at just a couple of weeks ago, our special events that are upcoming over the next year, you will see a very organized, systematic effort. Why is that important? Because it's bringing people into the city. And it's bringing a diverse groups of people. And we've now located increasingly large numbers of those events on Pennsylvania Avenue, which will accommodate even larger, numbers of people. The communication processes that we put in place, that's one of the 52 initiatives. And then, of course, focusing on attracting foreign technology firms. That's what the Z-Park initiative in particular is about. And again, when you think about 22,000 firms, it would not surprise me if we, in the next few months, saw 5 to 20 of those firms that decided to locate here in the nation's capital, which will bring jobs and will bring capacity to our city. In fact, what you see down the bottom of this slide is that's the delegation that came and visited with us back in October of this year, just a few weeks ago. And then the final slide is an effort to talk about how we are trying to combat sequestration. You don't combat sequestration by fighting it, because it doesn't. I don't think that makes any difference at this stage. Our response has been to try to go in another direction with the city, and we're really happy with the way things are going at this stage. Our city is growing. Our city is developing. We're adding population, and we're adding people who really bring resources to this effort. Again, you look at the 6 visions, which are summarized over on the left-hand side of the slide. You see things like creating a scholarship fund. We put $3.5 million additional since we've gotten this launched into projects that are starting to bear fruit. That $3.5 million is being invested in things like creating a scholarship fund for tech training, enhancing the workforce intermediary hospitality training, and providing funding for medical training. Again, if you go back, I simply asked you to connect the dots. We had a set of priorities when we started. Priorities around achieving fiscal stability, around education, continuing education reform in the District of Columbia, being able to facilitate the growth and development of economic development in the city, making this an even safer place to be, creating as much affordable housing as we possibly can in the District of Columbia, and becoming the most green, the most healthy city in the nation, which is a part of our sustainability plan. And a lot of this is embraced in what you are seeing today. We now have $1.5 billion in the bank, which has virtually doubled the amount that we had when we got started. And when the audit is done, there will be an audit that will be available publicly, obviously, under the leadership of our new CFO, under Jeff's leadership, in early February, likely. And I think our fund balance will probably go up again. And when it goes up, it will be at the highest level we've ever seen in the District of Columbia. We've seen the test scores, the achievements of our children. We now have the most robust early childhood education program in America, with 70% of our 3-year-olds now in school, 92% of our 4-year-olds. And I know, especially for young people who are socially and economically challenged, that this will make a huge difference in outcomes for them. When you think about the reality that 90% of brain development takes place by the time a child is 5 years of age, why would we wait, right, Alan? Why would we wait to be able to start those young people in formal education programs when we can get an earlier start with them and, frankly, improve their chances of positive outcomes? And that is our future workforce. When you look at the reality that only 30% of the jobs in this city are filled by people who live here, and the fact that we cannot tax income at its source, It means from an economic, a financial perspective, we have dollars that are leaving the city every day that ought to be available to people who are indigenous in the city. But if we continue to increasingly expand this economy and expand the sophistication of it, we'll have to expand the sophistication of the people who are then eligible for those jobs. And that is exactly what we're trying to do with our educational programs in this city. It's one of the reasons why we're building new schools, and I want to thank, where'd Alan go? Oh, there he is. Alan has done such a great job in helping us rebuild schools, renovate schools, and we are continuing to do that. The new Dunbar is open. Cardozo is finished. We just finished that and opened both of those schools this year. And Ballou will be open for the next school year. We're starting to work now on Duke Ellington, and all of our high schools will have been completed probably in the next 2 to 3 years of the work being done. Economic development, I don't need to say anything more about that. It ought to be obvious when you start to connect the dots what its contribution is to a vital, growing, breathing, developing city. Making a city safer. As this city has become increasingly more safe, is going to attract people who want to invest in business to the District of Columbia, and it's going to attract people to live in the District of Columbia. Being a sustainable city means we have a commitment to being an efficient city, to being able to make this a place where people want to live and businesses recognize our commitment. We have 143 initiatives as a part of our Sustainable DC plan. And we have underway, I think probably at least half of those initiatives are underway in what is a 20-year plan. A few have been completed. As you might imagine, it's the early stages. We're still in the first year. But there's no question in my mind that this is going to get done. When you see police cruisers that now don't have to idle burning up gasoline because they have an alternative energy source that they are using while they idle. It is good for the environment and it's good for the cost to the District of Columbia. And then, of course, affordable housing. We announced on Spring Place, which nobody had ever been to, I think, ever, that we were investing $187 million into affordable housing. And we're going to continue to work on that because it's not just a matter of being one city, it's also being an affordable city. And that is what we're trying to work to become, ladies and gentlemen. That is the framework for where we see this city going. It's the framework of where we've been trying to move this city, and it is the framework for where we will continue to work on behalf of the District of Columbia. I honestly believe, many of you know I'm a native Washingtonian. I love this city deeply. I honestly believe that we have the capacity to become the greatest city in this nation. And I think we're on our way. I hope you all have seen our rankings that have been put together. These things started to come out. They're all externally done, right? Right, guys? They're all externally done. You know, the strongest economy in the United States now in the District of Columbia. Number one in the United States for LEED certified buildings. The number one new tech hotspot in the nation. The number one retail market on the East Coast. The number one in the United States for best cities for college graduates. The best educated city in America, but we got to continue to lift up those for whom the education system is not best served them. Won the Harvard University Bright Idea Award for the One City, One Hire program. And on and on. In fact, we've run out of space on this card, and we've got a few more that we can add now. And you know what? We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep doing it. And every time somebody gives us an accolade, we are going to find a way to be able to publish that because it's good for the psyche and it's good for the self-esteem of us as a city. And frankly, having been here all my life, I know that there have been many occasions when this city has been beat down, when it has been told that we're not very good. And we are good. We are good. We're not going to be Charlie Brown, okay? We are doing well as a city. And we need to believe that. It is the most talented city in the nation, in my opinion. And we need to continue to use that horsepower as effectively as we can to move this city forward. We just got an additional, I think we're now the fourth smartest city in the nation. And that includes what we're doing with transportation, like streetcars. It includes what we're doing with sustainability. It includes what we're doing with accountability as well. which is what grade.dc.gov is about. So if you want to talk for about 9 hours about connecting the dots in the District of Columbia, I will be happy to do that, because when you connect the dots, I think you will realize that there are hundreds of thousands of people in the city who are making a contribution to move it forward, and we are moving forward. And what a shining example the market at O Street is, which 2 years ago, I don't even think we had started, right, Rich? 2.5 years ago, we hadn't even started. Now look at the new Giant. Now look at the new hotel. Now look at the new senior building. And look at the investments that are being made in the District of Columbia. So I didn't mean to talk this long, but you know what? I'm not making any apologies either, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a great city, and we're going to continue to be a great city. Bruce?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sure most of you in this room would agree that if this were just about your record, what you've done since you've been in office, you might not have all these people running against you. So how do you keep this campaign on your record and not on the 2010 campaign,
Let's talk about this, Bruce.
which your opponents want to talk about?
Let's talk about the economic development, 5-year economic development plan, then we'll come back to that.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on that subject.
Yes.
The council today is preparing to vote for an $11.50 minimum wage over the next to 2016. You've asked for 10 in a letter. It doesn't appear that you have the votes to veto $11.50, that could be overridden by the council. How are you going to incorporate the $11.50 wage in your economic development plan?
Well, as you know, Tom, the $11.50 is over a period of time. I think as of next July, we go to $9.50, which is actually less than what I proposed. My own assumption is that, we've got a study that will be finished in 120 days. And what we want to do is take into consideration all the factors that impact on what happens with, raises in the minimum wage. And by the way, I have supported an increase, and I said it even with the LRAA on the table. I supported an increase in the minimum wage. So we've made our own proposal. We will have some additional opportunities to address this. Legislation can be amended all along the way. So with that legislation starting at $9.50, which I would go to $10 right away, there will be opportunities over the next several years to be able to amend that legislation. And if it makes sense, I look forward to working with the council to be able to do that if it's something that would advance the District of Columbia. There are myriad factors that need to be taken into consideration. What is the impact on jobs in the city by increases? Where does it become a deterrent to creating jobs in the city? What is the impact on small businesses in the District of Columbia? And those are questions that we're going to try to answer or get answered with this study, and I look forward to working with the council as we go forward.
Now back to Bruce's question.
Yeah, but we're not.
Just teasing, sorry.
Man.
Clarification. Did you say 10th Street is opening Monday at the City Center?
I think it is Monday, isn't it? Yeah, it's very soon. Very soon, meaning days. Anybody know? Can anybody look at the schedule and find out? Because I saw it yesterday.
Monday at 10 o'clock.
Monday at 10 o'clock, traffic will be flowing through there for rush hour that evening.
I don't know whether traffic will be flowing there, but it will be open. It'll be the first time in about many years. Maybe when horses were going through there, that was the last time it was open. I don't know. Ms. Brazil.
Can I get you to go back to slide 14, page 14 of the handout?
Yeah.
And we should talk about the impact of your 5-year economic development plan and the accomplishments over the first year. And am I reading this correctly that you are saying that in terms of total jobs created, that they were 17,750 in the first year of this plan?
I think we're saying that from what's been done in the first year, it will result in 17,750 jobs having been created, 6,865 of which are construction jobs, almost 11,000 of which are permanent jobs. So I think that ultimately, and many of them have already been created, of course, but that's what will happen as a result of that.
That was my question, but this explanation you just said, this says that it doesn't have a footnote, it doesn't have an asterisk. This says that in the first year of your 5-year economic development plan, an accomplishment is 17,750 jobs, and total cumulative tax revenue of $281 billion. Now, is that by year's end, or are you saying these are things that are in the pipeline?
No, they're both. They're both.
Some of this is completed, and some of this is in process. For example, tomorrow we have tomorrow morning we have a Walmart opening, and those people go to work tomorrow, but that building started earlier. So you have to look at the construction process. You have to look at the opening process of the companies and then their hiring process. So it's an elongated schedule. So the reason that we use this number is that all of this will occur within the first, actually most of this will be done within the next 12 to 14 months. And these second numbers, these run until the fifth year. So it's a timeline. And if you would like to, I'd be more than happy to do this, sit down with you and walk through project by project so that you can see the numbers directly on each project.
The question I was getting to is, for example, in the 17,750 jobs that you say the 5-year economic development plan has created or will be created, how many of them go to D.C. residents?
It depends on the project, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and go through that. For example, the Walmart hires 68%. We've had some companies hiring at 50%. We've had some hiring at 80%. It just depends on the company, and that's the fact.
Well, and again, we are looking at, when we look at 30% of the jobs, being filled by people in the District of Columbia now overall, it tells you the challenge that we have, and we are paying close attention to that, especially by creating incentives for companies, particularly those who want tax credits or abatements of some sort, tips, that they have got to create a certain percentage of these jobs that will go to D.C. residents. It's one of the reasons why we increased the capacity of the DSLBD with more staff so we could do a better job of monitoring that. One of the concerns that I had, when we go back to the LRAA, was that there's no doubt in my mind that with that wage, we would have attracted a lot of people from Maryland and Virginia to want those jobs in the District of Columbia, because it is a higher wage than is being paid in those jurisdictions. And when we look at a regional approach, I hope there really is a regional approach so that we don't create incentives for jobs to be going to people who don't live in the District of Columbia because they don't pay taxes here.
I just have one follow-up question for Mr. Hoskins. I understand that when a company such as Walmart or Costco comes into the District of Columbia, they might have a hiring target. You mentioned some odd percent for one company.
I think Costco was almost 70%.
But have you gone back to Costco and gotten the numbers as regards to the current number of DC employees that are still there?
The answer to that is yes, and we can get those numbers for you. I know they have them at DOES, so yes. That answer is yes.
The number is substantially lower.
The answer is yes, and no, the number's not lower.
Come on, Ms. Brazil, work with us. We're trying to improve the city, man.
And I would really invite you to come to my office, and I'll sit down and walk through the numbers with you.
Oh, we'll get you. Tell us the numbers you want, and we'll do our best job. We need you to be promoting the city, Ms. Brazil. You live here, don't you?
Yes. Hi, my name is Brianna Richillo. I'm with the GW Hatchet at George Washington.
I'm sorry, you what?
The GW Hatchet.
Oh, the Hatchet?
Yes.
Good paper.
Thank you. What would you like DC college students to know about what you've done?
Can you speak up a tad?
What would you like DC college students to know about what you've done for DC's economic development since you came into office?
I would like them to know everything we've talked about, and I hope you will take this information back. And I would like you to be able to convey to them that for those, and there are many in our universities who have come here from somewhere else, which is not untypical for a university, but that this is a good place to live. That when they finish school, that they're going to graduate school right away, go to graduate school here. If they're going to work, look for a job in the District of Columbia and live in the District of Columbia, start to raise their families in the District of Columbia, and become a part of the fabric of the city. Don't be transient. This city has often been described as a transient city. I don't think that is as true as it ever was. I don't think it was ever as true as it was made out to be, because I think there are people who've gone to the suburbs, and unfortunately, when you go to the suburbs here, you're in somebody else's state. But I think it's even less true today than it has been when you have accurate data. So I want you to convey to them this is a great place to be, and stay here when they're done. And here's the reasons why.
So a lot of people look at these numbers and they see DC's economy is pretty strong right now, but a lot of the progress that's being made on development, people moving to the city, has been going on for a while, and people trace back to the previous administration or all the way back to the Williams administration.
Oh, come on, man. Well, you're just wrong, okay? You're just plain wrong. Go back and look at the recessionary environment this city was in. Look at what happened to the fund balance of the District of Columbia during that recession. Excuse me for saying this, you are just plain wrong. Want to know how I really feel?
I got a lot of people.
Yeah.
Can you point to a specific policy?
Said you're wrong.
Can you point to any specific policies that are actually creating jobs that weren't in place before?
Come on, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I've been to other cities where the media are actually, they're not part of the payroll of the city, but they are boosters for their city. They don't sit there and try to pick a hole, in anything that they can get their hands on. I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. I appreciate objectivity, but that is just plain wrong, man. It's debilitating to say something like that when it's not accurate. Yes.
You had mentioned that the Federal City Council is working on, seeing if an infrastructure investment fund is.
You know what? The acoustics in here are. Can we hurry and finish this building, Rich? Can you stand up and maybe project a little more?
I'm Naomi Jagoda with the bond buyer.
Identify yourself. So
I'm Naomi Jagoda. I'm with a reporter with the bond buyer. You had mentioned something about the Federal City Council working to see if it was possible to do an infrastructure investment fund.
Yeah.
Kind of what's the status of that? So one of the programs that you considered launched, and also kind of on a related note, where is the progress? I know one of the initiatives is looking into paying back some of the bonds early for tax increment financing programs. Where is that in the process?
First of all, you want to know the status, right?
Yeah.
They are working on it. I think the Federal City Council would be best equipped to give you an answer on that than either me or maybe Deputy Mayor Hoskins. He's been working directly with the Federal City Council on this issue. But I think one of the questions for us is, do we believe by creating such an entity, it will really facilitate the generation of revenue and investment in the city? And I think that feasibility question is still being answered.
They have a team. Actually, they have some students from GW, from the business program at GW, and they also have some consultants on board that are doing an analysis and looking at like the infrastructure bank for Chicago and a couple of others around the country. So they're looking at the best practices out there, but they haven't come to any conclusions yet. I think they're like 60 days away from a real set of recommendations.
The tax increment financing initiative.
That is just one. That's just one piece of a proposal, but there are a series, and again, they haven't finished evaluating that one.
Media.
I am the Washington.
Media.
I am the Washington Tribune.
Well, let me see your credential, Moten. Yes, media.
Can you give me some detail with the $187 million for affordable housing? How are you breaking? What is it going to? What is it going towards? How is it
It's going to the preservation and creation of affordable housing. We have 47 projects that are being funded. In fact, we announced those projects. I guess 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. 2 weeks ago, and we can give you a list of the projects and the organizations that are doing those projects. But it's a part of our commitment to get to 10 by 20 10,000 units of affordable housing by 2020. And when you do the math, and we've done the math, you will see that we actually are on course to create more than 10,000 units by 2020. Moten, if you got a credential, I'll be happy to see it. But as far as I'm concerned, you're not part of the media. Yes.
Does Dr. Vincent have a credential?
Yeah, and I happen to know who they are. That man right there, for example, is with Channel 5. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask about, as of October, unemployment in the city was actually up over the prior year. With new jobs coming online, are just not enough of them going to DC residents? I said as of October, unemployment was up in the city over the prior year, the prior month. If all these new jobs coming online, are not enough of them going to DC residents, or why are we not seeing a reversal in that?
Well, I think you have to look at what's going on in the federal sector to get not a complete answer, but a substantial answer from that. You look at the job creation in the private sector. I think over September and October, we had almost 10,000 private sector jobs that were created, but we lost a substantial number of government jobs, which almost 100% is a loss of federal jobs. So, to some extent, the unemployment rate is being influenced by an increase in the shedding of jobs, if you will, from the federal sector. That's exactly what a big part of this is about. And that is, if we don't shift this economy, if we don't start to move into other directions, the unemployment situation will worsen in the city. Now, I'm anxious to see what the November numbers were, because I'm not sure they weren't also influenced by some of the anomalous effects of the shutdown that happened in October and how data may have been recorded during that period. So we went down by 1/10 the month prior to that, and then we went up by 3/10 the following month. So I would be very hesitant, if I were you, to draw any conclusions from what I saw in September and October, because it was a very tumultuous period in this city especially, and around the nation. So yes, I would stipulate that the unemployment went up, but I think we better be very careful about how we attribute changes, what factors we attribute that to. Okay. For those who would like to leave after this, we as we customarily do, we'll give you a chance to leave. Okay, Bruce.
Most people who watch DC government closely would agree that if this campaign were just about your record and your accomplishments, you wouldn't have all these people running against you, people who want to take the debate elsewhere to the 2010 campaign. How do you plan to keep this focused on the last 4 years and not 2010?
I intend to talk about the future of this city, and I think we've talked about a foundation today that has been laid, that has concrete achievements, and that is specifically what I intend to talk about. You know, the issues from 3+ years ago, they eventually will be taken care of, Bruce. They continue to be reviewed. I want to talk about the future of the District of Columbia. What's amazing to me, Bruce, is how many people didn't even live in the city at the time who moved to the city. We're adding 1,100 to 1,200 people a month. If you do the math, there are tens of thousands of people now who live in this city who have moved in here in the last 12, 24, or 36 months. So I want to talk about where I see the city going.
A follow-up question, and I understand that. The other candidates, some of who got in the race specifically because of 2010, I mean, they make no bones about it. Can you go any further than you've already gone, other than saying you did nothing wrong? Can you tell us when you found out about that?
I have said that repeatedly, Bruce. You know, people get in a campaign because they want to. People got in the campaign because they want to be the mayor of the District of Columbia. They're people who like the title. I think they ought to articulate a vision for the District of Columbia. That is what people want to hear. We have a vision. We had a vision. We articulated a vision. We've worked at that vision, and we will continue to work at that vision. And I think others who would aspire to be in this job, wait a minute, Bruce. Those who aspire to be in this job, I think they ought to do exactly the same thing, and that is, where is it the city is going to go? Because if they're successful, then they will be in the job. And they have an obligation to say, this is where I want to take the city.
Can I ask you if you're willing to go further than what you've already said?
I've said, Bruce. I've said what I've said. I've said it repeatedly. And you know what? There's no end to that. I want to talk about the future of the District of Columbia.
You don't plan to say anything more about 2010?
I think I've said a lot already. I don't know where Tom Sherwood went, but I had about a 20 or 30. He had a 20 or 30 minute. I had a 20, 30-minute conversation with him one day. There's no end to it, Bruce. You've been in this business for 35 years or longer. You know there's no end to that, okay? So I want to talk about the future of the District of Columbia. I am a native Washingtonian. I have given virtually my life to this city. I am a public school educated product of the city. I'm a university educated product from George Washington University. That's why wait a minute. I'm patiently listening to you. And I want to talk about where I see this city going. And I hope the other candidates will do exactly the same thing.
Will you allow me one more question, please? Okay.
Well, you got a lot of hands.
Well,
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Mike.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate as you launch your campaign, you're trying to keep the focus on the future of the city. Are you satisfied that you've done everything in your power to put what's in the past? In particular, are you cooperating? Have you cooperated with the federal investigation in your 2010 campaign?
Mike, I want to talk about the future of the city, okay? That's why I got in this. I probably could have avoided all of this by not even getting into this, race at this stage. I want to talk about the future of this city. And I know you're an excellent reporter, and you will ask me the same question 14 different ways until you get the answer that you want. I want to talk about the future of the city.
Straightforward question. Have you cooperated with the federal?
I have said what I'm going to say about that. 2010 is now getting ready to be 4 years ago, okay? And I want to talk about what happens going forward from 2014 and forward.
You or your lawyer have been asked to come in to answer questions from authorities and had to comply with that request.
Mr. Mayor, going forward, and I think you're not going to answer Mike's question. Going forward, you know what the issues were in the 2010 campaign. Going forward, what are you going to do differently this time? You've got to file a campaign document with a treasurer, a chairman. Going forward, what are you going to do differently this time that you don't have whatever the problems were in 2010?
One of the things that I'm going to do is be very directly involved in my campaign myself, period. Yes.
You said if you didn't want to get these questions, you wouldn't have run again. How seriously did you consider not running, and how difficult was it?
I'm running.
Well, it took
Sam.
a long time.
Well, it did take a long time. I'm a deliberative person, and I like to get to an answer that I feel comfortable with, and I've gotten to one. Sam.
Mayor, I watched you this morning. I mean, you were a little more testy, jumping on reporters. I'm just, is that because of the tension of this moment?
No,
or what is
no, it's because of inaccuracies. That was an inaccurate statement. And jumping on report, come on, let's not exaggerate, okay, Sam?
I'm just saying.
Wait a minute.
You don't seem like the calm Vincent Gray that we generally used to.
It was an inaccurate statement that was attempting to go back and say, well, and I'm interpreting this, okay? Well, you guys are really standing on the shoulders of the past. And you know that's wrong. You know that's not accurate. And hopefully he knows it's wrong also. I hope it was just a provocative question to which he got a provocative answer.
This question is their questions too. What I'm saying is there's something going on here. No. Are you under more tension since you have announced? What's going on?
More so than before I did? No, Sam, I don't think so.
Are you anticipating a difficult road ahead?
I don't know. It is the road ahead. This job is not an easy job, as you all well know. Every day brings something new and something challenging. And frankly, I do this job because I love the city. Now, that may sound, I don't know how it sounds, but it's the truth. That's why I do it. I love the city. I love to come to a place like the market at O Street, or go to City Center, or go to St. Elizabeth's at this stage and see what is going on over there. This city is growing in development. I know this administration has been a huge part of making that happen, bringing people together in ways that they haven't been brought together before. And I just want to have the opportunity to continue to do that. We have a lot of unfinished work.
Can I follow up on what you just said, please?
No, but you got other people who haven't had a chance to talk yet, Bruce. And I didn't jump on him, did I? Yeah, Ben. Yes.
Okay. You just said a couple minutes ago that you plan to be more involved in the organization of the 2014 campaign. By saying that, are you saying that you might not have paid as much attention as you should have in 2010?
I have said on many occasions that I had a job as a chairman of the city council, that we got into the race late, And I wish I could have expanded the day from 24 hours. It was not possible to do that. So I have said that on many occasions, and I say that again. And that is, I want to be directly involved. I took my job very seriously as chairman of the city council. And by the way, just to harken back to what was said before, go back and look at the economy during that period. Look at the fact that we had financial revenue statements quarter after quarter after quarter that went down, 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 down. Look at when I took over. We instituted furloughs. We had furloughs that had 4 days of furloughs for every government employee that totaled about $22 million. And we did get to a point before our first year was out that we had turned this thing around enough that we gave back the $22 million to the people who had been furloughed. So it was a very challenging time in the city, and I did everything I could to try to make sure this city was continuing from the legislative perspective to run well.
Getting back to my question, you said as chairman, you were very busy. Presumably, you're also somewhat busy as mayor.
Well, I think the dots connect differently, frankly.
Be able to balance being mayor and also being very involved in your campaign's organization.
But don't you think the answer is easy to that? First of all, when people talk about what are you going to do, the others will have to say what they're going to do. People are going to look at my record. They're going to look at what's happened in the city the last 3 years. If I were a voter, which I am, that's exactly what I would look at. And that is, what have you accomplished, Gray, in the last 3 years? That's your campaign right there. And to me, there's a prima facie case that's been made here today and has been made over these almost 3 years that we've been in office, what this administration has done. Look at the job creation. Look at the education. Look at the economic development. Look at public safety. Look at sustainability, et cetera. Ms. Brazil?
Yesterday, you went to the D.C. Board of Elections and filed the necessary declaration of candidacy to get the petition issued. Have you been to the Office of Campaign Finance to file your campaign committee? And
no.
Well, then, I'd like to ask you this question. Who's going to be the chairman of your committee? And who's going to
we will announce that within the time frame that it is to be announced.
You have 5 days.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, you've said many times that you did nothing wrong in 2010. And I think the public knows that, and we've all been fair about reporting that. But you haven't talked about your disappointment for those who worked for your campaign and that were charged with crimes. And the public is waiting for you to speak about that. I know that you think we're all conspiring to ask these questions, but those of us on TV, the public comes up to us all the time. And these are the questions that they are asking us to ask you because they don't see you face to face. Can you comment about those who have been charged with crimes?
I think the outcomes in those instances speak for themselves, Matt. They do. And I'm not going to supplant the job of those who are in law enforcement because that's the job that they have. But I think the outcomes speak for themselves.
Are you disappointed in those folks?
Well, it doesn't matter whether I'm disappointed or not. The issue is that the outcomes speak for themselves. Thank you all very much.